think people talk about the mechanics a lot, like too much in my opinion. And in the book, I actually don't talk about the mechanics a lot. Like there's nothing in the book about like how to architect an API properly or how to like structure props. And, you know, I get those questions a lot. I don't have strong opinions about them, and I know others do. So I tend to not to address those. And honestly, I just don't think that they're as important, because I think good technicians will figure that stuff out eventually. It'll be hard, sure, but like that's what we're good at. We're good at that kind of stuff. We're good at figuring out that kind of stuff. It's harder to figure out like what sucks at work, you know, and how do we fix that? Like that's such a simple question that is hard to answer, and because I think it gets at the emotionalness of like what is hard about our work, and that's why I think those conversations take a lot of time. So in terms of pitfall, we tend to focus on like, let's have a workshop about like how to name our design tokens or how to name our components, which is cool, but that feels like a later conversation. Instead, it's like, what is our business struggling with, or what is our team struggling with? Do we not have good retros? Do we not have good process? Do our designers not talk to our engineers? Is our design not high quality enough? And what does that even mean? Are we not as accessible as we'd like to be? Like those are larger conversations that have a lot more impact. And I think that we don't know how to talk about impact as an industry. We know how to talk about mechanics a lot. It's hard for us to talk about like, so what is the problem if people who have motor disabilities can't use our website? Does that matter to us? Is that part of our values? Is that something that an organization stands for or doesn't? I think those are really hard conversations to have. And I think a lot of technicians relegate or defer that to like, well, that's like a VP's job to talk about. That's like, that exists at that level. And I'm like, no, we need to rise to that level. Like we need to be having those conversations. And I think that's what I like about design system work, is it forces us to elevate our conversations from purely a technician level to like what things are important to us. I think it levels up designers. I think it levels up engineers. You know, one of the things that designers I see are scared of with design systems is like, so we're basically automating ourselves out of a job because we have all these components that we can reuse. I'm like, yes, we're trying to make you, instead of you being a designer, we're trying to make you an art director. We're trying to make you a thing that now you can design with your words. Now you can design with your language. Now you can design with your thinking. That's what an art director does. Like we're trying to promote you, brother. Like that's what's in this for you. We're not trying to take away your ability to design tables and forms. Yeah, you're good at that. You've been good at that for the last 7 years. Time to level up now. Time to have more important conversations. And that's a hard conversation to have with someone, especially if they've never had that before.
I think, Dan, like you are so great at bringing up hard topics, hard conversations, but actually flipping the coin and showing like the net positive, the benefit from having these hard conversations, right? Like we can stay in like you said, the mechanics conversation about how to name your tokens and all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, like all that revolves around is buzzwords. What are other people doing around us? What's popular right now? What tools? And tools change, right? But purpose, right? Like the way that you do something can change, the tool that you use can change, but the purpose on who you are as a company, as a team, as a people, like that stuff can be pretty consistent. That could be a North Star, but it's harder to talk about the North Star, right? It's harder to sift down to the depths and find those North Stars. And the other thing you said that's really hard is like a lot of people have a fear-based mentality that design systems, that AI are going to rob you from something. It might change what your day-to-day looks like. It might promote you to something else, but let's get down to the core of problem solving. I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is like, am I really a problem solver? Or have I built my career on kind of like designing screens, right? And so I love this idea of like releasing people, like encouraging people to take those next steps as design, as problem solvers, as art directors, as creative directors. Tell me, what do you think? None of us are in this interview are, fortune tellers. We can't see the future, but like when you said the word designing with your words, like, what do you think about that? Like, what does that look like in the next 5 to 10 years?
Minority Report. It looks like Minority Report. Like that's what I want design to be. I want it to be, Tom Cruise putting these gloves on and designing by flicking gestures into the air. Like I know that, haptically and all that stuff, it's like inefficient, whatever. Like, yes, sure. But like we need to be able to conjure UI. Like that to me seems so fun. That seems so futuristic. It's like, we've seen this in commercials. We've seen this in movies, in sci-fi. It's like, at what point do we just make this happen? Because we're so close right now. AI is getting us closer than we've ever been. Design systems get us closer than we've ever been. It's the idea that if we have common things in a box somewhere, we can just conjure them. We could say, I wonder what this looks like. It's like the scene in The Matrix where he's like, we need guns. And like a ton of guns fly by. You know, and I
Right.
know I remember seeing like commercials for like Auto Trader, you know, where it's like, I need cars and then a red car and like all these things fly by. We have the ability to do that now. You know, our tools are getting sophisticated enough that we can do that, and yet we don't. You know, yet we have this like archaic process of like, well, first we need to write like a product requirements document, and then we need to make some wireframes, and then we need to skin those wireframes, then we get approved. Like that just takes so long. Why do we? Why are
Right.
we doing all that stuff? Let's make it more fun. Let's go like, what would this look like in red, and then be able to see it in red. Oh no, that doesn't. Yeah. What if it was like hand drawn? Like these are things that we do in our heads as experienced designers. We do this so fluidly, but our tools don't support us as fast as we think and as fast as we want to have ideas. And so we get really committed to our ideas. Like, well, I mean, I spent 8 hours comping that thing, so we got to go with it now because I don't want to do another 8 hours to see what it would look like with a different art direction now. You know, and I think
Right.
that we've sort of fooled ourselves into thinking that's what we get paid for, is like the hard labor of doing that. I'm like, that's not what we get paid for. We get paid to think about this stuff and like come up with this
Right.
stuff and remix this stuff and be influenced by culture and the things that we know, and influence culture and fashion and all these kinds of things. And I think that design systems enable that. So I want it to be Minority Report.